Superhot VR is the VR version of, well, Superhot, an innovative first-person shooter originally released in 2016 and developed by the aptly named Superhot Team. It was a game with a neat concept where time only moved when the player did. This would allow you to coordinate your movements, assess the level of threat, and plan out your route accordingly. With only 3 guns to use, 1 enemy type, and about 30 levels all up, it still ended up being one of the most unique shooting games to come along in a long while, problems aside. Given the game's plot about your character being absorbed into some kind of computer simulation, it's no surprise that a VR version of the game eventually got developed. And it's another game that encapsulates everything awesome about VR, making it, I think, the most fun version of the game. What it does is take the original game's mechanics and conform them effortlessly with the restrictions and capabilities of the VR headset, and it does this phenomenally well. Superhot VR doesn't really have all that much of a story, and I don't buy into the pretentious notion of how clever and meta the whole thing is. Just a game about a guy being sucked into a computer system, simple as that, so keep that pseudo-intellectual analysis crap for Kotaku and Polygon. The game simply begins with you in some kind of small locked-off room in what I guess is a shitty apartment in a shitty part of a shitty town, staring at a dilapidated pile of computers. From there, just load up the levels via a 3.5-inch floppy disk and log yourself in ironically by putting on a VR headset in-game. Then you're off and completing all the various stages the game has on offer. The environments range from factories to restaurants, bars, strip clubs, airports and graveyards, and they slowly ramp up in difficulty as you continue onward. Initially the game's kind of easy, but by the last few levels you've really got to use all of your skills to succeed. It's challenging, but in the best possible way. There's the same amount of ranged weapons from the original game. You've got the old chestnut the pistol, a submachine gun, and a sawn-off shotgun. The pistol's kind of the workhorse gun of the game, which you'll probably use the most, and the submachine gun is handy when you're up against multiple enemies, or maybe just want to fire off a few quick shots at someone that's further away to improve your chances of hitting them. I think the sawn-off shotgun is the best weapon, especially from a distance, as you're often able to tag 2 or 3 enemies at once if they happen to be close together, and as you damn well expect, all of these guns can be dual-wielded. Aside from that, there's knives, ninja stars, hammers, and various other pieces of crap you can fling at enemies. Thankfully, every enemy in this game dies from a single hit, regardless of what you hit them with. You can even kill someone by throwing a bottle at them. So it's not about spraying and praying like an asshole, you actually need to be a bit more careful and patient. It's often easy to forget that time is going to practically stop when you're not actually moving, and realizing this becomes essential later in the game. Kind of hard to explain just how good this game feels and controls, and it can take a bit of time before you can get yourself into the mindset of what exactly it is you're capable of doing with your character. Like if you see bullets whizzing towards you, grasping the concept that you can physically lean to the side or duck even to avoid being hit. If you're near a pile of crates or behind some kind of a bar or a table, you can even get down on your knees to take cover and kind of peer over the top, firing back at enemies. I was watching a friend of mine play it, and it seemed he wasn't able to latch onto this as well as I could. He'd just kind of stand there in one place, barely rotating his body and not using the environment to his advantage. And yet, he died a fair bit, and I'd often have to finish level for him. Even simply looking around will often reveal weapons nearby that you might not have seen otherwise if you didn't scan your surroundings. When you get into this rhythm and can utilize everything the game gives you, it just becomes a whole heap of fun. The game's been programmed in a way that whenever you kill an enemy, their equipped weapon kind of flies through the air, gravitating towards your position, and if you're quick enough, you can literally grab it right out of the air and keep firing. When you coordinate this to catch them between your left and your right hand, swapping out whichever weapon happens to be empty, you just feel like a badass, even if you are just killing these faceless red figures with zero personality and no identity. I mean, I had one point where I'd fallen to my arse shooting back at enemies, and I was literally huddled behind this snooker table shooting guys to my left and right as they just kept swarming me. It's like something out of a movie. You can even deflect bullets with cleavers or knives like you're some kind of time-stopping ninja. Throwing items can be a little bit finicky, however, especially from longer range, and sometimes whatever it is you're trying to throw at someone is just going to miss entirely, though I think a factor in this is how well you've set up your sensors. A word of warning too, Superhot VR is a health hazard, like you're gonna probably hurt yourself playing this game. Not only did I smash my hands and legs on almost every single surface in my room, but at one point I even tripped over when I was trying to avoid taking damage. The very first time I played it, I even broke one of my touch controllers by accidentally slamming it into my computer desk. Turns out I hadn't set up my safe space or whatever it's called properly, and let me tell you something, if it's you versus a wooden desk, the desk is always gonna win. Same goes for a concrete wall or a closet door. Trust me on that. I'll admit it was kind of funny watching my friend almost take his eye out though when he came about 2 inches close to the doorknob, but it's not the kind of thing you want to worry about when playing a game. I guess my point is just make sure you declutter the room before playing. Also, go online to any Superhot VR related threads and chances are you'll see people saying the same thing. Like other VR games too, this one caused me to sweat a fair bit and I was getting so hot from the physical exertion of the whole thing that I was down to my briefs at one point. Yeah, look, I know you don't want the mental image of me standing around in my underwear, but, well, now you've got it. Congrats.
Super hot.
Outside of the campaign mode, which is comprised of 19 levels, there's the return to the hardcore mode, which limits you to a single bullet in each weapon, and a survival mode, where you try to finish the campaign without dying once. Annoyingly, the game doesn't do the best job of explaining the other available game modes. You have to activate them by inserting these floppy disks from the apartment screen, but they're poorly labelled. Neither of those modes are all that much fun anyway, but thankfully the endless mode kind of is. This is again another mode returning from the original game where you're put into a particular area and just have to hold out against never-ending waves of spawning enemies as long as possible. The environment here comprised of a penthouse, a hotel lobby and a safe room amongst a few others. Each level has a sort of a target you're supposed to reach, and even after playing it for about 2 hours straight, I wasn't even able to complete a single one in all that time. I found this mode to be extremely fun, but also kind of annoying at times, though not for the reasons you might be thinking. Now look, I know it's intentional, but this mode becomes really chaotic after you get to about the 30th or 40th kill. And it becomes a bit of a problem sometimes when you're trying to pick up new weapons because there's quite literally dozens of them scattered around the floor that the game can't often tell which ones you're trying to pick up. Also, some of these environments are really well designed and then some of them sort of aren't. After a certain amount of kills, you can teleport to a different position, which in turn will kill all nearby enemies to give you a brief breather, but sometimes the spot it teleports you to can kinda leave you screwed. As far as I could tell, there's no kind of leaderboard system either, which seems like a really weird omission. Overall, Superhot VR isn't going to compel anyone to buy an Oculus Rift, but it is another one of those great games that I really think justifies owning one. It's engrossing and immersive, it's stylish and unique, and to top it all off, it's challenging and has just enough little distractions on the side to keep you hooked. After playing it, I couldn't possibly imagine ever going back to playing the original version. It's like going from Blu-ray back to VHS, or from Lagavulin back to Johnny Walker Red. It's a game that capitalizes and epitomizes the true potential of VR, and it's damn good fun whilst it lasts. Super hot. Super hot.
Super hot. Super